Hello. In the video today I wanted to show you a couple quick settings that I usually do and I'll usually recommend when creating a new Lightroom catalog or even for existing catalogs to change your settings and get the optimal results for each of your Lightroom catalogs. So as you can see here, I've got a brand new catalog I created. What I want to do is come up to the Lightroom menu, and I believe on Windows you go under File Preferences or Edit Preferences, but look for Lightroom Preferences. Click on that. We'll start off on the General tab here. A couple of quick things. When you first start up Lightroom, you'll notice the splash screen. If you like that, you can just leave this checked. That's fine. If you don't, you can uncheck it and you'll no longer get that Lightroom splash screen. I recommend always leaving this automatically checked for updates, and that one's a good one to have on. As far as the default catalog, when you're starting up, use this catalog. I recommend choosing this Prompt Me when starting Lightroom. My reasons for that are that I usually create backups each time that I exit Lightroom, and those backups are stored in a separate folder that's uploaded to the cloud. If you have it to load most recent catalog right there, in the event that you're checking your backup catalogs to make sure they are functioning and make sure they're not corrupt or anything, if you have load most recent catalog, it'll actually load up that backup catalog and be working from that, which can cause some problems down the road. So what I usually recommend is leave this on Prompt Me when starting Lightroom, and you'll get a little box pop up to choose which catalog you want to start from. A couple of these other settings here, not necessarily that important. If you want to have any sounds when you're done importing, when you're transferring files, exporting, you can set those all up right here. Presets, the only one I would like to leave and I would recommend leaving checked is this Apply Auto Mix when first converting to black and white. That gives you generally some pretty pleasing results when you're converting to black and white photos. So I recommend doing that one. The other ones I would say to leave unchecked. And down here when we go to the presets, I've just recently converted to storing all my presets with the catalogs. This I believe is just a personal preference. If you uncheck this, it will actually store them just in a separate Lightroom folder on your catalog, and they'll all be in one place. With this checked, they'll all actually be stored in the same folder as your catalog. It makes it kind of nice if you're backing up that specific folder, if you're copying it, moving it to other places. External Editing tab. This I prefer usually to set this as TIFF and ProPhoto RGB. That way you're going to get the optimal and the highest image quality that you possibly can, plus the widest color gamut when you're editing your photos. So I recommend changing it to those two. Bit depth 16-bit to get the highest, and a 300 DPI resolution. And if you ever edit any of your photos in applications like Photoshop or the On1 Perfect Effects Suite or any of those, your external editor, you can default this to a specific file format. I will generally, again, just leave this as TIFF because it does support layering, the same as the PSDs, but I'm fonder of the TIFF format than any others. And again, change this to ProPhoto RGB for that wide color gamut, 16 bits, and the 300 resolution. Another great option is usually when you send a file to Photoshop to edit and then save it back into Lightroom, it's good to have this stack with original. That way it keeps your catalog more organized, and you'll have each of your edits of your specific file stacked together in one group. So that's a good one to have checked as well. File handling, again, these are just a couple little ones. What I would always recommend is the camera raw setting. Set it to the highest one and later, if at all possible. Interface, you can change a couple of your things like your end marks, which are these little things right here. If you have custom ones, you can add those in. If not, I generally just leave them off, but that, again, it's a personal preference for, if you like the little end marks on there. And then Lightroom Mobile. So that pretty much takes care of the general Lightroom preferences. Now for the catalog settings, these are specific to each catalog you create. And so if you have multiple different catalogs for multiple different shoots, you're going to end up having to change each of these catalog settings for each one of those catalogs. If you have just one master catalog, you can change this once and it's set up to go. So for starters, on the General tab, your location, this is where the catalog is actually stored. You can see it right there. And you can change that to pretty much any location that you would prefer. If you want it on an external hard drive, you can store it there. You can store it on your internal hard drive, just kind of whatever you prefer. Now for the backup, what I prefer to change this, you'll see you'll get never, once a month, once a week when exiting, once a day when exiting, every time it exits, and when Lightroom next exits. The one I prefer to choose is every time Lightroom exits, because usually I'll go into a catalog, make some metadata changes, make some edits, all of that kind of stuff, and I want all of those most recent changes to be backed up. And so every time I exit Lightroom, it'll pop up a little note saying backup catalog, and I click yes each and every time I do it. Now onto the file handling. What you're going to have here, your standard preview size. This is going to depend on your monitor resolution. What I recommend is to set it to the highest possible setting you can get for the monitor that you are using. On mine, I'm using an iMac 2048. It's about as big as I want to go. The 2880 I could probably get away with, but 2048 gives me really good results. If you're using smaller monitors, laptops, you want to go with one of these others that closest matched your monitor resolution. Preview quality, I'll set this at high. Again, you're editing your photos, you want to see the highest possible quality image that you can see when you're making your edits. And then discard one-to-one previews. I will change this usually to after 1 day, because usually I'll edit an image, it'll create the preview for it, and then once I'm done editing that image, I typically won't go back to it immediately, and so I don't need those one-to-one previews stored for 30 days, taking up hard drive space. And if you change it to 1 day, say in the event you do go back to that file a couple days later, it just creates another one-to-one preview. It may take slightly longer, but I feel the trade-off in storage space is actually going to be a lot nicer. Lastly is the metadata. These are going to be the default ones checked when you create your catalog. The one I will want to recommend and make sure that you do check is this automatically write changes into XMP. That means any metadata changes, any editing changes, anything like that will automatically write those changes into the XMP sidecar file for that image in your Lightroom catalog. That's the main one I want to recommend everybody go in and check. Saves you a lot of hassle as far as saving any changes, saving any metadata, anything like that. So once you're done with that, your catalog is actually pretty much set up, and you can go ahead, start importing your files. If you already have files in here, start editing, make sure those backups are set up, and just kind of maintain your Lightroom catalogs. So hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.